humble farmer shares heartfelt reason for buying a new car, and everyone is moved. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. John, the humble farmer, was an unassuming man, quietly tending to his small, arid plot of land. For years, he poured sweat and hope into that soil, dreaming of a brighter future. But it was the dream of a car, shiny and robust, that finally summoned a spark of joy from his weary heart. Today was the day he decided to take that leap. To his neighbors, it seemed like a modest milestone, but whispers began to swirl around the village like autumn leaves caught in a wild gust. "Oh, you've heard about John's car?" they'd say, eyes wide with curiosity. "He's finally buying a new one!" Those words ignited a flurry of memories and emotions buried deep within the community. John's late father had always spoken of a time when they would drive to the market, filled with fresh produce and hopes for better days. That dream rested in the dusty corners of their home, locked away until now. As he prepared for the purchase, John's heart soared with excitement. Each moment spent dreaming felt like the rebirth of his father's hope. But lurking in the shadows, an old rival, Marcus, seethed with jealousy, eager to undermine John's hard-earned joy. The air crackled with tension, a storm brewing just below the surface. Then, just as the shiny new car glimmered in the sunlight, an unexpected accident shattered the quiet. It was a mere fender bender, but the aftermath was anything but ordinary. John's heart sank as he watched the vehicle crumple, panic seeping in like a shadow creeping through dusk. The rivets of his past began to unravel as unexpected secrets raised their heads, threatening to change everything he knew about his legacy. With a lump in his throat and trembling hands, John realized he was standing at the edge of truth and deception. The community, once buzzing with excitement, began to whisper again, their expressions shifting from joy to concern. Nobody knew what lay beneath John's calm exterior, what memories and mysteries churned within. The shockwaves of the accident swiftly spread through the town, each pulse a reminder of the interconnected fates they all shared. What would John discover about his family that had remained hidden in the dark? And how would he confront Marcus, now pulsing with newfound energy and malice? There it was, the weight of the past pressing down on him. And as the sun dipped behind the horizon, an unsettling thought echoed in his mind. What if uncovering the truth shattered his dreams? and would the taste of resilience bend or break him? The real journey was just beginning. The weight of the past pressed down on John as he stood outside, staring at the crumpled frame of his new car. His heart felt heavy. The excitement that had once filled him was now overshadowed by dread. What had begun as a simple dream now seemed like a nightmare. Suddenly, a shrill cry pierced the chilly evening air. John turned, his eyes wide. A figure stumbled out of the nearby woods, panic etched across their face. It was Sarah, the local librarian, her clothes torn, her skin pale. John rushed to her, urgency surging through him. "John, you have to listen. There's something terrible." Her voice trembled, sending chills down his spine. "What happened?" he asked, battling his own rising fear. "I saw it. In the woods." It was glowing. Her breath came in quick gasps. "There's a grave out there. But it's not just a grave. There's something buried. Something people are hiding." John's mind raced. His father's stories flooded back. Whispers of an ancient secret tied to their land. Could it be true? The townsfolk had always called his family cursed, but he had dismissed it as mere superstition. "Sarah, what do you mean?" "It's connected to you, to your family. I swear I saw your father's name." His heart pounded. Questions surged in his mind like raging waters. Could his father have hidden something from him? Something that linked their past to the present? "Where exactly?" His voice shook. "Over near the old oak," she exclaimed, pointing toward the darkening woods, as if something unseen was pulling her gaze there too. Just then, the ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. A low rumble echoed through the air, causing dust to swirl around them. John's stomach dropped. Fear twisted in his gut. "What was that?" he breathed. But before Sarah could answer, a blinding flash of light erupted from the forest, illuminating the trees like day. John shielded his eyes, heart racing. It was as if the earth itself was awakening. Then, as quickly as it began, silence fell. The air grew thick, heavy with something unnameable. John opened his eyes, dread creeping in. In the silence, a new sound emerged, a soft, haunting whisper. It grew louder, wrapping around him like an icy finger. "Wake up," it called, low and compelling. "You're not who you think you are, John." His breath caught in his throat. "What does that mean?" he asked out loud, but only Sarah remained. Her eyes widened, reflecting the raw panic shared between them. "John," she whispered, her voice now thick with fear. "We need to go back. Now." But before they could move, the earth trembled again, this time sending them to their knees. An explosion of earth erupted nearby, revealing what looked like an ancient box, gleaming eerily with an unnatural light. "This is just the beginning," Sarah cried, trying to pull him away. "You don't understand," John shouted. "This could change everything." But the words felt weak against the rising tension. Uncertainty swirled around him like the dust cloud, leaving only one thought piercing through the chaos. What had he really inherited? And how far back did this legacy reach? The mystery deepened, pulling him closer to a truth that felt as unsettling as it was inevitable. As he stared into the glowing box, the urgency gripped him tighter. Could he face whatever was buried in his family's past? And what would it cost him to uncover the truth? The air hung thick with tension as John and Sarah knelt near the glowing box, hearts pounding with dread and anticipation. The light pulsed softly, casting bizarre shadows around them. But just as John reached out, the ground trembled again, sharper this time. An explosion of dirt and roots erupted, showering them with debris. John flinched, instinctively pulling Sarah closer. And then out from the powerful blast, a figure emerged, cloaked in swirling dust and chaos. It stumbled forward, breathless and wide-eyed. A person he recognized immediately. His long-lost brother, David. John's heart stopped. David had vanished years ago, swallowed by the town's darkest whispers. "David?" John croaked, disbelief coating his words. "Is it you?" David's face, once youthful, was hardened and wild. "I had to come back. You have to understand." His voice trembled, panic stripping it of confidence. "It's not what you think. They are coming for you, John." Sarah's jaw dropped in shock. "John, is this really?" But John couldn't hear her, his mind racing. Memories flooded back. The bedtime stories, their shared laughter, the family gatherings now shadowed by David's absence. How could he be here now? "Why, David? Why did you leave?" His voice trembled, caught between anger and relief. "I didn't want to," David shouted, his eyes wide, searching John's face desperately. "I was pulled into something big. You need to listen, the accident. It's connected to the family's secrets, to the land." "Secrets?" John's chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" "It's a curse, John. A long-standing one tied to our father." David's voice dropped, the words hanging heavy in the air. "And it's worse than you think. The accident." "It wasn't an accident. It was meant to draw you in." A chill slithered down John's spine. "What do you mean, draw me in?" His heart raced, fear mingling with confusion. From the shadows of the woods, a low growl echoed. It was deep, primal, and filled with a hunger that spread dread throughout the clearing. "John, run!" Sarah screamed, grabbing his arm. "No!" John jerked away, eyes locked on David. "Why do you know this? What are you hiding?" David stepped closer, urgency dripping from every word. "I thought I could break free of the family bonds, the weight of our past. But I've seen things, dark things. They want you because you're the last link. If they find that." Box. The ground shook again, and John stumbled, the box glowing brighter than ever. It felt alive, like it carried a heartbeat, a pulse that resonated with his own. "Do not touch it!" David yelled, his voice rising above the rumbling earth. "You'll unleash more than just the truth. You'll unleash the curse." And with that, everything exploded into chaos. A flash of blinding light consumed the grove, the eerie glow swallowing David whole before John could protest. "David!" he shouted, instinctively reaching for the spot where his brother had vanished. But the light flickered and faded, leaving only silence and shadows. John felt a tightness in his chest as he turned to Sarah, her expression mirroring his fear. "What just happened?" she whispered, eyes darting toward the dark woods. "I don't know," he breathed, heart racing. "But if David is right, if our family has been holding secrets that could change everything..." The earth trembled once more, pulling them back to the reality of their surroundings. The glowing box still pulsating, the whispers in the air growing louder. "What are we going to do?" Sarah's voice shook, her wide eyes pleading for answers. John swallowed hard, the weight of his family's past pressing down on him like a heavy stone. Uncertainty churned inside him. Was David truly lost, or had something far more sinister taken him? And what was this curse that threatened to swallow his world whole? As the darkness loomed, and the glow pulsed brighter, one thought echoed loudly in John's mind. What price would he have to pay to uncover the truth? The air hung thick with tension as John and Sarah knelt near the glowing box, hearts pounding with dread and anticipation. The light pulsed softly, casting bizarre shadows around them. But just as John reached out, the ground trembled again, sharper this time. An explosion of dirt and roots erupted, showering them with debris. John flinched, instinctively pulling Sarah closer. And then, out from the powerful blast, a figure emerged, cloaked in swirling dust and chaos. It stumbled forward, breathless and wide-eyed. A person he recognized immediately, his long-lost brother, David. John's heart stopped. David had vanished years ago, swallowed by the town's darkest whispers. "David?" John croaked, disbelief coating his words. "Is it you?" David's face, once youthful, was hardened and wild. "I had to come back! You have to understand!" His voice trembled, panic stripping it of confidence. "It's not what you think! They are coming for you, John!" Sarah's jaw dropped in shock. "John, is this really?" But John couldn't hear her, his mind racing. Memories flooded back. The bedtime stories, their shared laughter, the family gatherings now shadowed by David's absence. How could he be here now? "Why, David? Why did you leave?" His voice trembled, caught between anger and relief. "I didn't want to!" David shouted, his eyes wide, searching John's face desperately. "I was pulled into something big. You need to listen. The accident, it's connected to the family secrets, to the land." "Secrets?" John's chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" "It's a curse, John. A long-standing one tied to our father." David's voice dropped, the words hanging heavy in the air. "And it's worse than you think. The accident, it wasn't an accident. It was meant to draw you in." A chill slithered down John's spine. "What do you mean, draw me in?" His heart raced, fear mingling with confusion. From the shadows of the woods, a low growl echoed. It was deep, primal, and filled with a hunger that spread dread throughout the clearing. "John, run!" Sarah screamed, grabbing his arm. "No!" John jerked away, eyes locked on David. "Why do you know this? What are you hiding?" David stepped closer, urgency dripping from every word. "I thought I could break free of the family bonds, the weight of our past. But I've seen things, dark things. They want you because you're the last link. If they find that box—" The ground shook again, and John stumbled, the box glowing brighter than ever. It felt alive, like it carried a heartbeat, a pulse that resonated with his own. "Do not touch it!" David yelled, his voice rising above the rumbling earth. "You'll unleash more than just the truth. You'll unleash the curse." And with that, everything exploded into chaos. A flash of blinding light consumed the grove, the eerie glow swallowing David whole before John could protest. "David!" he shouted, instinctively reaching for the spot where his brother had vanished. But the light flickered and faded, leaving only silence and shadows. John felt a tightness in his chest as he turned to Sarah, her expression mirroring his fear. "What just happened?" she whispered, eyes darting toward the dark woods. "I don't know," he breathed, heart racing. "But if David is right, if our family has been holding secrets that could change everything—" The earth trembled once more, pulling them back to the reality of their surroundings. The glowing box still pulsating, the whispers in the air growing louder. Suddenly, the box shifted, the light flickering like a heartbeat. Without warning, it burst open. John staggered back as a tempest of energy exploded forth, knocking them to their feet. And there, in the swirling chaos, emerged a spectral figure, translucent but powerful. It was a woman, her face familiar yet haunting. John's breath caught. It was his mother, long thought deceased, buried in the corners of memory. "John," her voice echoed, both soothing and terrifying. "I am here to end the curse." "Mom?" John gasped, disbelief and a tornado of emotions flooding his chest. "But how?" She raised a hand, cutting him off. "You need to understand our family's legacy, the bond holding us imprisoned in grief. David's disappearance was a sacrifice to keep you safe." The words hung in the air like lead, heavy and unyielding. John's mind reeled. A sacrifice? For what? To keep me from this? "Yes," she implored, her eyes filled with sorrow. "But it is time to break the cycle. Only you can do it." With every word, emotions crashed over him like waves. Fear, anger, confusion. "Why didn't you come back? What else are you hiding?" John demanded, trembling. The ground shook again, the whispers intensifying. Sarah held on to him tightly. "Mom, please!" John's voice shook. "Tell me, what does this all mean?" Before she could answer, the shadows surrounding her twisted, dark and hungry. The winds howled, pulling at his very soul. "John!" she cried, as if warning him of an impending doom. But a deafening roar erupted from the woods, drowning out her voice. In that moment, everything shifted. The air crackled with power, and John realized in a blinding flash of clarity that he had been chosen for something far bigger than himself. Yet as the shadow engulfed her, the voice of his mother faded to a haunting whisper, a chilling echo that left him gasping. "Save us!" A heart-wrenching silence fell. Everything around John blurred. The world spinning away into darkness. What had he truly awakened? What sacrifice lay ahead of him? And could he find the strength to face the truth buried deep in the heart of his family's past? Everything around John blurred, the world spinning away into darkness. "Save us!" His mother's last words clung to him, haunting the stillness. Fear twisted in his gut, tightening like a vice. The shadows surged forward, dark and overwhelming. "John!" Sarah's voice broke through the chaos, yanking him back to reality. But it was no use. The ground shook again, the spectral figure of his mother fading into the darkness, and he could feel the air grow thick with dread. "Mom!" he shouted, reaching out as if he could pull her back from the abyss. But it was empty now. The glow of the box pulsed ominously, echoing the rising tension. Then, without warning, the very earth beneath them split open. A fissure cracked wide, snaking through the ground. John stumbled backward, grabbing Sarah's arm to steady them both. They stared in horror as the crack widened, revealing a churning mass of shadows, slithering tendrils that reached out toward them. "Run!" Sarah screamed, panic in her eyes as she tugged at his arm. But John couldn't move. He was rooted to the spot, a whirlwind of emotions raging inside him. And just like that, the shadows surged, wrapping around them, pulling them closer to the opening. Out of the depths, a voice boomed, rich and terrifying. "Your time has come, John." Heart racing, John squinted into the darkness, and then he saw it. A figure, colossal and menacing, emerging from the void. It had a familiar shape, its features obscured by the dark. But one thing was clear. It was the last person he expected to see. "Father?" he gasped, staggered by the sight. "Welcome back to the truth," the apparition boomed, the voice resonating deep within John's bones. "You were chosen to continue the legacy." "No." John's heart raced, disbelief washing over him. "You can't be! It's not true! You're dead?" The ghostly father laughed, a sound that chilled John's blood. "What if I told you none of this was what it seemed? What if I told you I faked my death? The curse, John! It was never yours to bear alone. It's ours." Tension crackled in the air, turning thick with confusion and betrayal. John's head spun as realization crashed down like a weight. You faked your death? Why?" "Because, my son, to protect you. They didn't want me. They wanted you." His father's eyes glimmered with dark determination. "This is your inheritance, acceptance of your destiny, to unlock the true power we've hidden for generations." "No!" It felt like a knife to the heart. John couldn't breathe. "You didn't care about me. This isn't power. It's a curse." The ground trembled beneath him again, shaking his very soul. But he kept staring, searching for something, anything, to let him grasp the remnants of his father's love. "No, this can't be the truth." "Oh, but it is," his father's voice thundered, darkness swirling around them like a tempest. "And if you don't embrace it, you'll doom us all." "Embrace what?" he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. "This? The lies? The shadows?" Suddenly a blinding light erupted from the box, piercing the darkness like a beacon. Without warning, it pulled at him, drawing him in as if it were alive, calling to him. John felt a rush of energy, overwhelming yet intoxicating. "John, you have to fight!" Sarah cried, grabbing his shoulder as the shadows tightened their grip. "Don't let him take you." But through it all, a fragment of doubt tangled in his heart. Could his father be right? Was this the moment he had been waiting for? "Make your choice," the voice echoed, drawing him closer to the light. And the shadows seemed to recoil, wailing as if they were alive, desperate to keep him. Everything felt like it was spiraling out of control, leaving him gasping for air. He could feel them both, the darkness and the light, pulling him in opposite directions. But as realization dawned, a seed of defiance took root in John's heart. Everything he believed was crumbling. "Do I run?" he wondered, lost in turmoil. "Do I stay?" And just as he stood on the precipice of choice, the world shifted again, engulfing him in a blinding flash. "John!" Sarah screamed, clutching at him, fear alive in her eyes. Then everything went dark, plunging them into an abyss, leaving only one thought hanging in the silence. What lay beyond the light, and what would it mean for John, for his family, if he chose to embrace or reject it? The air hung thick with tension as John and Sarah knelt near the glowing box. Suddenly, everything around them blurred, plunging them into darkness. "Save us!" His mother's last words clung fiercely to him, twisting his insides. Shadows pressed in, cold and overwhelming. "John!" Sarah's voice cut through the chaos, shaking him. But he was stuck, frozen in disbelief as the darkness closed around them. Then an explosion. Light erupted from the depths of the darkness, blinding and fierce. John staggered backward, covered in dust and debris. He shielded his eyes, gasping. In the center of that powerful glow, something massive shifted. It was overwhelming, a force unlike anything he'd ever felt. A figure began to take shape, partly obscured, but undeniably powerful. "Behold!" it boomed, voice echoing, shaking the very ground beneath him. "I am the keeper of the curse." "Who are you?" John shouted over the roar, fear clawing at his throat. "It is I," the figure replied, stepping into the light. It was his father. No, it wasn't just him. It was both of his parents together. Alive. "Mom? Dad?" John's heart raced, a mixture of hope and confusion flooding his senses. The haunting vision of them was too much to comprehend. "Together, we have come to guide you, John." Their voices intertwined, resonating with a kind of urgency that sent chills through him. "What do you want?" he stammered, glancing at Sarah, who stood frozen, shock painted on her face. "How can this be real?" "Everything you believed is a lie," his father declared, the weight behind the words cracking through the air like thunder. "We faked our deaths to protect you from the evil that seeks to control our bloodline." "Control?" Sarah echoed, eyes wide. "Why?" "Because, John, you are the key," his mother said softly, stepping closer, her hands trembling with the weight of truth. "Our family legacy is powerful, but it also comes with darkness. We needed to shield you until you were ready." "Ready for what?" John's voice was raw with confusion. The light flickered, shadows threatening at the edges. "For you to embrace your true self," his father said, his intense gaze locked onto John, "and for you to face the darkness that comes for you." "Darkness?" John's pulse raced, a knot tightening in his chest. What darkness? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the woods, snapping his attention away. He turned, heart pounding. Figures emerged from the shadows, cloaked and sinister, their faces shrouded, eyes glinting with malice. They stepped forward, menacingly. "We've come for you, John," one hissed, voice dripping like venom. "The time to reclaim what is ours has come." "Run," Sarah screamed, her spirit ignited with fear as she pulled John back, trying to escape the encroaching darkness. "No!" John shouted, defiance rising within him. "I'm not afraid!" He stepped forward, heart racing, determined to confront whatever evil awaited. But as he did, everything shattered. A shockwave rippled out. The light from the box surged, blinding him. In the moment of chaos, something shifted inside him. Memories flooded. Images of his parents, happy times. But also darkness lurked in the corners. Secrets that felt too heavy, too profound. And then, with a gut-wrenching scream, he felt it. A connection. A bond linking him not only to his parents, but also to the shadows closing in. It hit him like a freight train. He wasn't just linked to his family. The darkness was part of him too. "No!" he roared. But it was too late. A flood of knowledge poured into his mind, overwhelming, sharp, and with it came a slip of realization that broke him. "Mom! Dad! You're part of them! You were never trying to protect me. You were just—" "John!" his father shouted, fear flashing in his eyes. "Don't let them!" But the shadows surged, consuming everything in their embrace, dragging John into the depths of darkness, an awakening that would forever change the narrative of his life. As the vacuum of chaos enveloped him, one thought flickered in his mind. What if the real curse was always him? The air was charged with chaos as John felt the shadows grip tightening around him. The darkness pulsed, alive with malevolence. It encroached on his thoughts, drowning out the last echo of his mother's voice. And as the figures drew nearer, John's heart thundered in his chest, every beat urging him to run, to escape this hellish nightmare. But he couldn't move. It was like standing in a dream, where the ground turned to sand beneath his feet. The world around him twisted into a horrific blur. Sarah clung to him, her eyes wide with terror. But the whispers grew louder, crawling beneath his skin. "John," a voice called from beyond the shadows. It was familiar, yet warped. "You can't escape your true nature." He turned abruptly. "What do you mean?" Panic tinged his voice. And then everything shifted. With a crashing force, the distortion of reality shattered around them. A blinding light engulfed the clearing, swallowing all shadows in a rippling wave. John squinted, holding his breath as a figure emerged from the brightness. It was his father, but he looked different, changed. The eyes were no longer those of a loving parent, but burned with a feral intensity that chilled John to his core. "John," his father boomed, but it was a voice distorted, echoing like thunder. "You don't understand. Neither of you do." Suddenly, time felt suspended, the world held at bay. John could feel Sarah's grip tightening, fear washing over him like ice. There was something deeply wrong here. The truth hung heavy in the air like a thick fog pressing down. "What's happening?" John demanded, desperation clawing at his throat. "What did you mean by my true nature?" Without warning, the light flickered, and in an instant, sharp agony coursed through him. It felt as though a million flames ignited in his veins, an all-consuming fire that left him gasping. And then he understood. "No!" John shouted, realization hitting him like a punch to the gut. "Join us," his father said, voice dripping with dark promise as shadows coiled around him. "You are destined to reclaim the power that flows through our blood." "Power?" John spun away, disbelief bursting forth. This is a curse!" The shadows roared, echoing like a storm. "You cannot fight it!" They shrieked, their voices a cacophony of despair and rage. "This is who you are." In that suffocating moment, everything spiraled. A flash of memories flooded John's mind. His father's laughter, the warmth of his mother's embrace, the doubt jobbing in the back of his head, when he dared to dream. But then, amidst the turmoil of feelings, another voice emerged, a whisper that felt oddly warm, the voice of his long-lost brother, David. The words flickered through the chaos. A momentary calm fell over him. "David," he murmured, eyes darting for recognition in the swirling shadows. Could he truly be there? "Yes, brother," came the whispered response, laced with urgency. "You must decide when that portal opens. Seize the moment. Only then can you break free." Break free? But before he could process the meaning, the ground erupted again, another fissure catching the light. John's breath hitched as a new figure stepped through. Not his parents, not David, but a stark figure, a figure shrouded in darkness, dressed in a flowing black cloak, face hidden. "Enough of this!" The voice was sharp, slicing through the tension. "Your time is up, John. Step into the shadows, or face the consequences." A sense of dread flooded over him. Everything he'd clung to, truth, hope, love, felt like it was slipping away. And then, in a heartbeat, the cloaked figure raised a hand, and a flash of recognition hit John. Hard. He felt gut-punched. It couldn't be. Is that... He couldn't finish the thought, but a sickening twist of realization stunned him into silence. The figure stepped into the light, and John staggered back, breath hitching painfully in his throat. "It can't be you!" His mind reeled as he faced the revelation that shattered him to the core. The darkness took on a familiar form, one he never expected, leaving him gasping in disbelief and agony. "Welcome home, John," the figure greeted, a sadistic smile creeping onto its face. The darkness, the curse, they all began to make sense now, leaving John teetering on the edge of despair. How could this be? Now, will you join us, or will you fight? "Your fate," the cloaked figure hissed, the stakes higher than ever. A chilling silence fell, heavy with anticipation, and in that crucial moment, John's world shifted forever. Who could he trust now? And did he dare to confront the truth that lay at the heart of his family's legacy? "Welcome home, John," the figure greeted, a sadistic smile creeping onto its face. The darkness, the curse, they all began to make sense now, leaving John teetering on the edge of despair. "What are you talking about?" he stammered, his heart racing. "You can't be!" The shadowy figure stepped closer, the air around them crackling with energy. "You fought it your whole life, but look at what you are. This is your destiny." "No!" John shouted, and in that moment, the world shifted again. Suddenly the shadows coiled tighter, pulling him toward the vision of his father. A tangled web of desperation wove through him. He could feel Sarah's grip slipping as fear washed over her face. "John, fight it!" she screamed. "Don't let them take you!" But as he struggled against the dark, everything exploded into chaos. Time seemed to stretch and warp. Then came a deafening roar, a rippling shockwave that sent them all tumbling to the ground. The light from the box flickered violently, and with one powerful surge, it burst open again. Only, this time, something truly horrifying emerged. The very ground beneath them convulsed, and from the churning mass of shadows, an enormous entity revealed itself. It was like a twisted reflection of his family, a monstrous, swirling figure composed of shadows and faces he recognized. "Join us!" it echoed, voices melding into a sing-song chant that pierced through John's mind. Panic flooded his senses. He picked himself up, desperate to break free from the chaotic whirlpool of emotions that gripped him. "What are you?" And then it struck him. The faces within the shadow. It was everyone he had ever lost. Friends, family, even David, captured by the darkness, manipulated, chained to this very moment. "John!" Sarah shouted, eyes wide in horror, pointing to the figure that had emerged. "It's your entire family! They're trapped!" He shook with disbelief. The whispers grew louder, a swell of anguish clawing at his chest. "What have you done?" he cried, horror wrapping around him like a suffocating blanket. "I didn't do anything," came his father's distorted voice from within the darkness. "This is the curse we created together. You must embrace it, or they will remain lost forever." John felt a surge of anger. "No, I won't be part of this." But even as he refused, a flicker of doubt rippled through him. What if there was truth behind it? What if he could save them? The thought gnawed at him, making his heart race with urgency. "Choose, John." The shadow loomed, stretching like an abyss. "Join your family, or be condemned to carry the burden of their fate." As the shadows battled for his soul, the world spiraled into chaos again, and he saw a glint. It was the glowing box, pulsating with a fierce, bright light. With a surge of instinct, he dove toward it, hoping to contain the chaos. And then, something unexpected happened. A blinding flash erupted from the box, illuminating everything, unraveling the shadows. In that moment, time froze, and the air went silent. When the light dimmed, John slowly rose, but what lay before him left him breathless. The figures of his family were no longer twisted shadows. Now they stood before him, flesh and blood, eyes shining with clarity. The monstrous visage had shattered, revealing a truth so shocking that it sent a tremor through his core. "John," his mother whispered, voice trembling with emotion, "we are not your enemies. We never were. The true enemy has been manipulating us all along." "Who?" John choked out, heart racing. As they stepped closer, the shadows around them began to quake. "We'll tell you everything, but you must trust us. Time is running short." Just then, the familiar dark figure beside him smirked, eyes glinting with triumph. "Guess again, John. This is just the beginning, and you will regret your choices." His chest tightened, and a new wave of realization struck. Everything he had been told was not as it seemed, and now he had to uncover the truth. Not only about his family, but also the power of the legacy he had been bound to. Could he really trust them after all? What lay at the center of their secrets? The air thickened with tension. The question loomed, heavy in the silence. What had he awakened? And what were the true ramifications of the family ties he thought he understood? The air thickened with tension, and John didn't know what to believe. His family stood before him, alive. But were they really? The shadows that had once trapped them now flickered around like restless ghosts, as the familiar figure, once a comfort, now seemed a terrifying enigma. "Mom, Dad, what's happening?" He felt his heart racing. Why didn't you tell me? The truth before? Why now? Time is of the essence, son. They travel on paths you can't understand, his father insisted, urgency edging his voice. The shadow shifted restlessly at his feet, echoing his fear. They are not who they seem, John, his mother added, her eyes wide with urgency. You mustn't trust the darkness. What does that mean? His voice was rising, confusion mixing with dread. A low growl rumbled from the emerging shadows, and everything around him trembled. The ground quaked, and a pulse of raw, dark energy cascaded across the clearing, sending a chill through John's core. Then a scream shattered the air, a voice he hadn't heard in years. John! David! David! He shouted, adrenaline surging. But even as hope ignited, an overwhelming wave of darkness surged forward, and a figure appeared, rushing through the shadows. John couldn't make out the features until... there it was! David, his brother, wild-eyed and desperate, spun into view, only to stop dead in his tracks, his expression shifting from elation to pure terror. Get back! David shouted. You don't understand what you're dealing with. David, John exclaimed, his heart lifting, even as dread sank in. You're here! No! Leave now! David gasped, as if gravity itself pressed him toward the ground. You're not safe with them! Time seemed to freeze. For a moment, the chaos fell away. John met David's frantic eyes, searching for answers. But in that heartbeat of clarity, everything fractured. Darkness surged, more violent than before, coiling around David like a serpent seeking its prey. No! John screamed, desperation clawing at his throat. Suddenly, with a powerful blast, the energy converged. The shadows engulfed David, pulling him backward into their twisted depths. John lunged, heart pounding, but the shadow clamped down like iron. He could barely see David's outstretched hand, grasping for escape as the darkness consumed him whole. John, you have to... And then he was gone. A vacuum of silence filled the air, a suffocating stillness that settled like lead in John's chest. Blood rushed in his ears, panic flooding him. The faces of his parents looked distorted, their eyes wide with horror. Yet something else flickered behind that fear, coldness. No, what have you done? He said, disbelief twisting his insides. That flicker in their gazes began to sink in. The shadows danced, and his mother stepped closer. It's time to face the truth. Then it hit him, fresh and fast as a knife. You set him up, he shouted, eyes darting between them, realization crushing his heart. You let him come here to be taken. John, his father warned, the shadows swirling more aggressively around them. But it was too late. The betrayal surged within him, sharp and biting. Why? Why would you? He choked, trembling with fury and pain, as everything he believed crumbled. The shadows around them roared, and his parents hardened, expressions shifting. From sorrow to something darker. No more questions, his mother said, voice low and unyielding. You must join us. Join your true legacy. John couldn't believe it. You're all part of this. And with that, the urgency reached its peak, a storm of uncertainty and anger tightening around him. If they turned against him, then where did that leave John? Who was he really? In a moment of rash instinct, John turned toward the luminous box, still glowing with power. He needed to act. But the shadows lunged again, more feral, enveloping him. As he fought against the darkness, the horrific truth echoed in his mind. If he didn't escape, would he be lost like David? Would they take him back? To the shadows? And in that moment, standing at the crossroads of betrayal and legacy, one thought burned brighter than anything else. How far were they willing to go to keep him bound to this curse? The shadows roared, and John felt them close in, darkness swirling around his body like a suffocating blanket. Anguish gripped his heart. But in that frantic moment, he spotted the glowing box. It pulsed with a bright, almost inviting light. "Forget this!" he shouted. Determination flooding his voice, he lunged toward the box, clearing his mind of fear, of betrayal. His family had spun a web of lies, but he wouldn't let them trap him in it. As he reached the box, a rush of energy surged through him, almost like a heartbeat, matching his own racing pulse. The luminescence swallowed the shadows, and for a split second, he felt friendship, warmth, and hope. "Let go of him!" Sarah cried, her voice fierce, as she stepped in front of John, protecting him from the swirling dark. "No, Sarah," John shouted back, his heart pounding. "Stand with me." Trembling fingers reached out, and as John touched the box, a shockwave burst forth like a bear breaking through the ice. Bright light engulfed him, and suddenly he felt the presence of his family, lifting the shadows, their bond stronger than the dark. "John, trust us," his mother urged, the truth finally spilling from her lips, raw with emotion. "We did it to protect you." The spectral figure of his father stepped next to her, eyes softening. "You can break the cycle. You hold the power to free us all." "No!" John shouted again, but now the conflict within him blurred like a dream. They seemed genuine, desperate, but was this fake emotion, another trap? With every ounce of strength, John shouted, "You took David! You let him get swallowed by this darkness!" "What we did was for you," his mother cried, a tear running down her cheek. "The curse twisted everything. It mangled our lives, just like it's trying to twist yours. Face it, John, you can't deny who you are forever," his father added, voice thick with pain. John felt torn. Images flitted through his mind. The warmth of family gatherings, laughter, the ties that bind. But right alongside were the fears. The shadows that caused their undoing. Could he really trust them? With a roar that shook the earth, he said, "If you truly care, then help me break this curse. Help me bring back David." In that moment, the shadows faltered. The energies shifted, and suddenly they were pulled back. Swirling uneasily, as if they were caught in a current they couldn't control. "Yes, together!" Sarah shouted, gripping John's arm tight as they huddled next to the glowing box. Its light brighter now, an anchor amidst the turmoil. The shadows recoiled, crying out in fury. "You think you can defy us?" But John didn't falter. Together, they raised their hands over the box, channeling their combined strength into the light. With one explosive surge, it burst forth, illuminating everything once more. "David!" John shouted, willing his brother to return. And then, like a spark igniting dry kindling, light consumed the dark. The shadows evaporated, revealing David, breathless yet whole, standing there with wide eyes, free from the grasp of the dark. "John! Sarah! You did it!" David gasped, his voice full of relief and gratitude. "Never leave us again!" Sarah exclaimed, rushing to embrace him. As the shadows dissipated, the energy radiated warmth through the air. John's heart lifted as he turned back to his parents, their figures shimmering. In the fading light, they too looked relieved but wary. "Thank you, John," his father said, "for releasing us." Turning away, John felt the weight of sadness wash over him. "I'll forgive you, but trust will take time. You will have to earn it." With a final glance, he took Sarah's hand, and together they stepped forward, leaving the past and the shadows behind them. But even as they walked back toward the brightness, uncertainty loomed. What would their future be? Would they ever fully escape the lingering effects of the curse? Something told him their journey wasn't over. This was only the beginning. You need to subscribe now to stay ahead with upcoming exclusive stories so you don't miss a moment. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video description and get yours now.